Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news, and I hope you had a great weekend. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy myself, and truly it's just such an amazing franchise, but with that said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. One developer has revealed what they believe to be the biggest difference for next generation consoles compared to this generation, and no, it's not the solid-state drives. What was said definitely does favor the Xbox Series X as the most powerful console, and we will talk about that here in just a bit, so don't go anywhere just yet. Of course, though, we do have plenty more to talk about as well, including a possible reveal date for the PlayStation 5, and it's coming very soon. But before we get into all of that, let's go over some of the quick news. And to start things off, fans over the weekend definitely had something to be hyped up about after the popular voice actor Troy Baker and the vice president and creative head for Marvel Games Bill Roseman seemingly teased an upcoming DareDevil game in development. Now do keep in mind that I said seemingly teased because, as you see here, the two seems to be joking around about a new DareDevil game by saying, "You sir are clearly a man without fear," which is in reference to Daredevil. This of course drew a lot of speculation for a possible new Daredevil game, but later on it was revealed that the two were simply acknowledging their desire for a Daredevil game rather than them actually teasing anything at all. Now with that said though, I do still think that this is worth talking about because when you have the vice president wanting to do a game, there is a good chance of said game actually happening. Now we all know Marvel's Spider-Man turned out to be an amazing game developed by Insomniac, and it was a huge hit. Without a doubt, Marvel is going to want to do more big AAA games like that with the Marvel Universe, because it has already proven to be a huge success if done correct. And that was an exclusive title for the PlayStation 4. Just imagine how much a big AAA multi-platform game could sell with the same quality in the Marvel Universe. You're talking about some huge numbers, and honestly, Daredevil would be the perfect hero to make a game out of. You could have so many cool game mechanics with Daredevil and his combat. And for me personally, Daredevil is actually my favorite Marvel hero, and I actually like him more than Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man is great and all, so don't get me wrong, but I've always been a really big Daredevil fan, and it killed me when Netflix canceled the Daredevil show. That was such a great show, but it is what it is, I guess. I would certainly love to see a game of it though, but what about you? Would you like a big AAA Daredevil game to be made? And if so, who would you want to develop it? Let me know in the comments below. And speaking of putting up huge numbers, we have two games with some new sales numbers available. Let's start off with Minecraft, which has now sold more than 200 million copies worldwide with 126 million monthly players, which is just absolutely insane. I remember when Microsoft first acquired the Minecraft IP and Studio Mojang for $2.5 billion, and there was a lot of people criticizing Microsoft, claiming that Minecraft is far past its prime and that they would never make that money back again. Well, those people could not have been any more wrong. This has become a timeless franchise. The Minecraft beta first came online, I believe it was in 2010, and later it released in 2011, and here we are 9 years later, and there has been no slowdown at all for Minecraft. Microsoft has easily made that investment back of $2.5 billion from game sales alone, and that's not even including all of the merchandise that they sell as well. Also keep in mind that Minecraft Dungeons is also right around the corner as well, releasing on May 26th. And well, Minecraft Dungeons is actually looking pretty good. And before we do start talking about this other game, there was something else that popped up over the weekend regarding the Minecraft Studio Mojang. So apparently they have changed their logo and are now in multiple studio locations, which is very interesting because it's being said that they will be working on new games in addition to Minecraft. Now, I don't know if that means it will be Minecraft related or a completely new IP. That's something we will have to monitor closely as time goes on, but yeah, Xbox turned Mojang into multiple studios, and well, why not? They are one of the most successful developers ever, so this makes perfect sense. Now, as for this other game, This may not be as impressive as Minecraft, but Nioh 2 has officially sold more than 1 million units since its debut in March. This is actually good news as well because there was some concern as to whether or not this game had any kind of success. It almost seemed like there was no buzz around this game whatsoever, but it did end up selling more than 1 million units. Whether or not that meets expectations of the studio or publisher, I don't really know, but anytime a game passes that 1 million milestone, that's a good sign. Now, the first Nioh did sell more than 3 million units, though it did release on PC later on. Hopefully the same thing happens with the sequel, but either way, big congrats to both Team Ninja as well as Mojang for the impressive numbers. In other news, let's talk about the Xbox Series X and next generation platforms as a whole because the game director Peklar for the Xbox exclusive Scorn had something to say about next generation consoles, and this probably shouldn't have to be said, but Peklar said this in an interview with MS Power User. Everyone is touting the SSD as the next big thing, and yes, SSDs will help a lot with loading and moving assets, but the biggest culprit that is creating problems in the current generation is the CPU. That's where the biggest difference compared to current generation will come from. So there it is. This has been something I have been saying on this channel for months regarding this topic. While one side of the room has been talking about teraflops and the other is boasting about solid-state drive speeds, I have said many times that the processors will be the biggest leap forward. I think a lot of people don't really realize this, but current generation consoles processors are a complete bottleneck on the consoles right now. When you look at the Xbox One X, that thing has a pretty good video card in comparison to other platforms on the market, but the reason it cannot get better performance than what it does is because the Jaguar processor is still not that great. Now, I do have the One X, and it's a fantastic console, but it's certainly limited as to what it can do, and one big reason for that is because of the processor. The Series X and PlayStation 5 is such a huge step up in this regard, and the Series X in specific is by far the most balanced console coming out. It does have 12.1 teraflops, which is big for computing power and raw visuals. And it also has the fastest processor, clocking in at 3.8 GHz. Then you also have to take into consideration that the Series X has 52 compute units, which is incredibly important as well, because I do think that the ray tracing will be the biggest visual change for next generation. Ray tracing for next generation consoles are being handled by their compute units, so in comparison to the PlayStation 5's 36 compute units, Xbox Series X really does have an advantage at everything except for the solid-state drive. But just as Peklar said, the SSD is great for moving assets and load times, but it's not the biggest change. I've seen people really try to twist this narrative, but the Xbox Series X is the most powerful console for next generation, though the PlayStation 5 is still very capable as well. The PlayStation 5 does have the fastest SSD, but the Series X also does have a fast solid-state drive as well, and it really is that simple. We don't need to overcomplicate this because we already have the specs and information right in front of us. I think both will have great games this upcoming generation, and that is what we should be focusing on now. You are probably wondering though, if there is such a huge leap up when it comes to the processors, then why is it that Assassin's Creed Valhalla could not do 60 frames per second? And why was Unreal Engine 5 only running at 30 frames? What you have to understand is that these same exact games with the same features would not be running at 30 frames per second without cutting several features on current generation consoles. For example, they are not running ray tracing. So let me explain this a different way. Bright Memory Infinite was running at 60 frames per second with ray tracing on the Series X, and while that is not some huge AAA game, that would not be possible on the Xbox One X or the PlayStation 4 Pro. It just wouldn't be. A lot of that is because the processing power paired with the 12.1 teraflops and 52 compute units. Ray tracing is incredibly demanding, and even on PC today, when you turn on ray tracing, it's a big hit on the frame rate. So the fact that Bright Memory Infinite pulled off both 60 frames as well as ray tracing is very impressive, and shows you the big increase in processing power. And it was also in 4K. Now, the question still remains if big AAA open world games will be able to do the same thing. Some developers are absolutely going to push visuals to their limit, and that will be in sacrifice to 60 frames. But what I'm hoping for personally is that if developers do such a thing, that they will at least give users the ability to toggle between a performance mode or a visual mode. We have seen that with some late generation games such as Monster Hunter World, so that is my hope for now. But yeah, every component in these upcoming consoles are very important. And don't get me wrong, I am very excited for solid-state drives. I've been using a solid-state drive in my computer for years, and it is a big change when it comes to things like load times and pop-in, and these consoles are running state-of-the-art solid-state drives. So I mean, yeah, I'm excited for that too. But when it comes to visuals and performance, it's not the be-all, end-all component. The Xbox Series X is still the most powerful console for next generation. With that said though, I do have one last update regarding the PlayStation 5 in specific, because let's be honest here, the most important thing is not necessarily power. We want great games, and according to Jeff Grubb, a journalist for VentureBeat, the PlayStation 5 reveal will be happening on June 4th. That is something that he has said before, so that's not necessarily anything new, but he is now saying that it will have an entire slate of games. In other words, a lot of games will be shown at the supposed PlayStation 5 event on June 4th. The thing about that is that Sony hasn't actually confirmed anything just yet, so you do have to take this with a grain of salt until Sony officially confirms something, but because Jeff Grubb is a journalist for a well-respected website, let's hope this is true. Now the next question though is what games could they possibly show there? Could we finally see what Bluepoint has been teasing for such a long time? Could it truly be a Demon's Souls remake? I mean, I would love that personally. And hey, maybe we get to see God of War 2, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or even Spider-Man 2. And yeah, I would kind of expect some big third-party games to show up there as well. Resident Evil 8, maybe. That's been in the news quite a bit lately. And also, you have that new Batman game. Hey, there's also that Harry Potter game. I mean, there is several that could end up being there, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Let's wait for the official announcement, but again, hopefully this is all true. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.